Was there like ever a moment where you felt, this is too much for me, I'm quitting, I'm done with this?
With that,
with track and field,
I didn't really have any other option at the time.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really, there was no giving up, so to speak. You know what I mean? I kind of, to be fair, I had already won the race of sport, of track and field, not sport. In track and field, like I was fortunate enough to earn a degree in from a great university, was able to tour, come back to the UK, represent the nation, meet some great friends, some lifelong friends, and then even my wife in the process. So to me, I was already in the green.
Yeah,
I could have left any time. You know what I mean? It was nothing. It was more for me like I wanted to see what more I could get out of it. You know what I mean? It was almost like, you know what I mean, just roll the dice again. You know what I mean? That was kind of where I was with the sport, but I was always doing other things on the back end because I was always trained to be more than an athlete. Student athlete is the mantra in the US.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And same way when I moved back to the UK, it was like, all right, like apply that, you know, business athlete. So when I moved here, I needed something else to do to keep my engine going because it was like, it was just like very much bleak, train, come back, repetitive. And it was like, whoa, this is my, and again, it was like lonely as well because it's like, you're all there for the same goal and there's only three spots. So it's like I was training with like Robbie Grabars, you know, Olympic silver medalist, you know, some of the best jumpers in the nation, you know, and we was all biting at each other's ankles for that like two more places because Robbie was going. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was kind of like, you know what I mean, like how I kind of grew through it. I never really felt like quitting. Okay. Even now, I haven't even retired officially, but you know what I mean, who knows? You know, I just look at it as like, you know, like I've been fortunate to have a stellar career, no injuries. I've been happy. The dangerous athlete is a happy athlete as well. That's another thing. So I'm just like I'm enjoying it, man. You know, some people don't get the opportunity to leave on their own terms, and I've been able to do it, pivot, do it again, pivot, do it again. You know, so you know, I'm happy.
Okay, so what's the training like? Because I'm a sprinter.
Yeah,
I wanted to know what the training is like for high jumpers because. For me, looking at it, it just looks like all single leg.
Yeah.
You must balance it out by doing plyometrics on both legs and not just one leg.
Yeah, the training could be very robust. Okay. I've been fortunate to train in 2 different camps.
Okay.
You know, in America and in the UK. And what I noticed in the group that I was in when I was in the UK, it was very rhythmical. A lot of base training, a lot of again like lower legs, but then a lot of core, abdomen strength. Yeah. You know, like we train like, you know, some of the Russians, you know what I mean, very much I mean like almost calisthenics. You know what I mean? It was intense. It was intense. But then when I got to America, they train more on like your engine. You know what I mean? Bigger, faster, stronger, better athlete. Okay. So it was like, whoa, no more rhythmical. This is like, you know what I mean, you get your machine. That's kind of like where the name started, you know, emerging, like the machine. I kept going. You know, I knew how to fine tune my engine. You know, okay. you may start with like, you know, a regular V6 engine. And start of the season, by the end, you're on V12. You're torque, you know, ready to go. You know what I mean? So all that torque, all that engine, all that power, you know what I mean? You need to really like align that at the right time as well, because you know it's all great, you know what I mean, to be in shape, but you know what I mean, in track and field it's all about peaking at the right moment, the right time. Or all that other stuff is, you know, kind of like you could be in best shape of your life, but in off season, you know what I mean, that won't be fun. So yeah.
Do you, this is going to sound like a bit of a joke question, but do you get one leg bigger than the other being a high jumper because of that bounce off of that leg, you like know, a Hulk leg? I never really like sat and pondered on that because I felt we did a lot to balance. Right. You know, our coach was very good at, you know, making sure, you know, we had certain amount of reps. Now, if anything, like we would probably have wear and tear around the hip, right. You know what I mean, on one side. But I don't think we did
whatever we did on one leg, we did another in the gym. I remember that. You know what I mean? We didn't just like go, that would be quick session. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we did everything on, because, the high jump was 90% the runway. The jump was the last 10%. So those legs, you know what I mean?
So you could give Faber a run for his money, then sprint.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We were not sprinters. I know I wasn't. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you touched on, you're still fit. You're still fighting, still got the machine mentality.
That's it.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
34. I'm 33, and there is a clear difference in body. Just I'm a musician, so you can imagine it's drink and rock and roll and all that.
Nice.
But could you still jump into going into high jump now at 34? Like, is there like? I guess like what I'm trying to say is when you look at footballers and when people question footballers, look at Ronaldo. I mean, look at the peak of that guy. I mean, he just seems like he can keep going, and he's 40. You know, and it seems like now age isn't so much a question whether you can. It's more your mental state and what you put in your body and stuff like that. But what do you say to that?
That's a good point. It's a good valid question, because only recently that's why I never close the door on anything.
Yeah.
It's because you can feel, and I know it sounds taboo, you can feel like $1 million, but your age might tell you, it's we've had our fun, we've had our run. And I feel like it's you, then, because I look at like this generation of athletes, particularly in the professional sports. You got Ronaldo, you got LeBron James, you have Serena Williams, you have Floyd Mayweather. We have these greats that are still able to move, because it's how they approach the their craft. They're professionals. Not just in the ring or in the gym, like in life. They take care of their body, they take care of their nutrition, they take care of their health. And I've been fortunate enough that I've had great coaches in my life that stress the importance of mobility, stretching, eating, sleeping well. Like moving around, getting the treatment. And I feel like that also has a toll. So I might be 34, but I might not have as many mileage as somebody else. So, it's like, it's however you look at it. Now, I've never had an injury. I've never been under the needle or knife or anything like that. So I'm very much like, feel like, and that could be just 3-4 years to some other people, because, they might have had an injury and now they've got a little bit more tender in certain regions, where for me, like, long as like, I know my limitations, and I take care of, my strengths, I feel like I can balance out and have more longevity. And I think that's the end goal, is longevity in sport, and to leave on your own terms, as opposed to some athletes would have loved to continue on, but their body is just not able to live up to it. And I feel like that's when you're that 1% in the world, it's bound to happen. You know what I mean? Like I was never a world champion in track and field, so I never, I feel like I never tapped into that engine where it's probably like full throttle and then something breaks. You know what I mean? I feel like I've always quite been steady in my development. I was like, okay, like I ain't gonna do that. I'm not gonna lift that much. I'm not gonna sprint that much. I've always kind of been very much in the sweet spot, and I would say, and I feel like some could say I didn't risk enough, but some could say I risked just enough. I don't know.
Well, in a mental state, then I guess it's slow and steady wins the race.
There you go. Consistency, the small chops, the nut down the tree. You know what I mean? Over time. So I get you. It's the same philosophy that I believe in as well. It's the Zen approach. It's like not trying to do everything right then and there, but it's those small increment details. And I feel like that's been me. You know what I mean? Like when I was an athlete, when I did track and field, I saw myself as a dark horse.
Yeah.
Someone that was there, but wasn't the first contender that you would expect. But I would emerge as a victory in the long run. You know what I mean? As opposed to like sometimes you don't necessarily have to be the fastest, the strongest. But if you just don't quit and you go the distance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
Do you feel like the top tier athletes, that 1% that you talk about,
push
their body too far or to the limit of their body, and it couldn't work on someone else's body?
I can only speak on what I've seen.
Yeah.
My wife was a world champion.
Yeah.
She represented Great Britain. She was one of the best 400-meter hurdlers in the world.
Yeah.
And then at the World Championships, at the peak of her career, she had one of the most devastating injuries, and it took her like 4 or 5 years to recover from. And
was that physically or mentally? It took
no,
her
Physically. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Mentally, she was always going to be, a star. But I feel like that, seeing, how she was prime in her best shape, but again, that she was pushing herself because there was other women that wanted her spot, and she wanted to prove herself. I felt like it was inevitable, like when there was going to be a break. And then Robbie Grabar is my training partner. He had another severe injury that took him out for a few seasons as well. And most of the world best all had injuries. And you start to think how much pressure are they putting on their body, how much are they doing, beyond their limitations. These are the questions that for me as an unsponsored athlete coming up, where I needed to be present every week. To be able to just break even. Yeah. I wasn't going to be doing no 1,000 extra reps, in the dark, with no guidance and supervision. It just wasn't happening. It's like, you got to know which battles you want to fight. Yeah. So for me, like I said, I played a smart game. Yeah. Like I said, I train smart, not hard.
Okay.
Train smart, not hard. And I think that's why I'm still here.
So do you feel that because they've got that sponsorship and that funding and stuff like that makes them push?
I can't. All I'm saying is I know from witnessing. Sometimes when I was training alongside, I was like, "You're doing the same thing as I'm doing, but why is you jumping at a different rate? Why are these guys running at a different like?" Don't get me wrong. There's talent, and then there's those that work on their talent as well. Yeah. And that's some people are born for it to be great and to be the 1%. That's their destiny. But for others, like I feel like I found the love. I developed the love and the passion for it, and then I became one of the best, within my region or area, or whatnot. And then I became a contender. And it's just more or less from there. Like none of my past relatives or immediate family members would have done anything like in sports where I was doing. Okay. But I was just gifted and fortunate in that time spent to make the most of it. But I started at 15 years old. Like, I was playing basketball. I had no business doing track and field. So I started at 15. Within 3 months, I became the state champion. Within 2 more years, I was representing the national team. And then 10, 15 years later, I'm doing a podcast talking about it. So it's wild, you know what I mean? When you think about it, it's like, come on, like you already won. Yeah. And I look at it that way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Do you and your wife have any plans of having children, or have you got children?
Yeah. So I have a son at the moment. He's 4.
Well, they're going to be wanting to test them in a lab, right? Like with both of your genes.
He's funny, man. This guy's funny. Like I said, I would just wish that he is able to find his path, and whatever way we can mold it and support it. That's all I really care for. Because, like I said, I know it's not easy, and it does take a lot out of you. In terms of like the sacrifice. Like. I'm probably not the person I would have been if I didn't go this route. In terms of like the people I hang out with, the people I associate with, the career I have, the job I would have had if I didn't do so many different things. Because mentally I've always I would say like been like the guys. I did everything like I like the college life. I enjoyed we all enjoy, but like I had to narrow down and focus in and spend more attention to other things where my colleagues were probably doing other stuff. So it's just about decisions and making those. And I feel like one thing I'm proud of to see in my son is that he's got his own mind at an early age, and I think that's one thing that I'm super proud of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can, kind of navigate already at an early age, like what he wants. And I feel like it's good as parents to allow your kids to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to have a little girl soon, so
congratulations.
Thank
man.
you. Cheers. Thank you.
Man.
I'm a bit like, oh, I'm sort of one of them minds. Is like you sort of touched on it there a little bit. Like, I think again, whatever field you're in, whether it be athletics or music, whatever it may be, like, to keep that and to sort of earn money through that as well, or like to constantly be what you were born to be is tough in this world, right?
Yes.
And I'm of a mind sometimes, like if my little girl turns around and says, I want to be a singer, I'm almost like, no, you don't. But you do what you want to do, sweetheart. You
got to.
Yeah, exactly, and support them in every way they go. Look, let's completely spin this a minute. From going, athletics and high jumping. When did you get a call for Big Brother in Nigeria?
Wow, that was something I pursued. To be fair,
Wow,
I pursued Big Brother because. I didn't tell you the full story, but I didn't get to represent Nigeria initially at the Commonwealth Games in 2018. I was banned from switching my allegiance. They was going through a change in the rules of the switching allegiance at the time, and I was just in that window. And I made a fight for it. I put out as much like pushback as I could to just I want to compete. Call me, let's get this thing done. I was furious because I'd flown all the way to Australia, mate.
Yeah.
Getting ready to debut in the Commonwealth Games. I was proud. It was like, this is gonna be my moment. And then as I got into the village, they flagged my my profile and basically rejected my participation. So it was probably there was a 2-month window from me becoming British champion, or 1 month to going to the Commonwealth Games, and then I was on a high, and then immediately I was just on the low, probably one of the lowest points in my life. I was like, because I felt so vulnerable, something taken away due to paperwork and due diligence. So I was like, oh, you kidding me? Wow. And I was just felt like just so you know what I mean? So I can't really describe it, but just so invaluable to the.
Did you feel like someone turned your back on you a little bit?
It just felt very outcast, or do you know what I mean? Like come on, I'm not a drug cheat. I've never done anything of that nature to disrespect the sport, and here I am, did all what I could do to get in this moment, and then it was stolen, taken away from me. But again, I fought back 4 years later on, and I was able to represent Nigeria at the Commonwealth in Birmingham. But yeah, that in itself, again, also left some bitter notes in my mouth for being in that track and field world. So when I didn't get the opportunity to represent Nigeria at the Commonwealth Games, I switched my interest to the opportunity of going on a reality TV show, right, which was Big Brother. It originated in the UK, but now it's in Nigeria. I was like, well, this would be a cool way to, kind of redeem that moment of donning the colors of Nigeria on a big stage. And I didn't anticipate it being as big as it was, but it was one of the biggest shows, if not the biggest show in Africa. So wow. I ended up going on there, no very much plan. I just wanted to promote my business, have a laugh, go there and say I done it, gain a few followers, come out, and then look.
Well, you got the followers.
Yeah, man. So yeah, it was, again, life is they said when we plan, God laughs, and I never would have anticipated that my life where I didn't see myself as a reality guy. You know what I mean? I felt like I don't have the outlasting personality. I didn't see myself like that. I just felt like sometimes I was a bit too dull. But what I realized is, who I was enough. And again, like I said earlier in the podcast, I was just trying to find myself, you know what I mean, from the Mancunian kid that grew up in the streets of my side, and now I'm in like international global stage. It's just like, I've already won. I keep saying it. My whole life, I'm just like grinning, cheese, like you know what I mean, chin ear to ear, because I know, like, you know what I mean, it could have been a lot different, you know.
So how did it change your life, the whole Big Brother experience?
It taught me a lot. It gave me a lot more confidence. In there, I was able to come out of my shell a bit more. I felt like I was able to live up to my name, find my identity, you know, kind of realize, you know, in the spotlight, it was kind of made for me. And then also, you know, knowing again that I'm a lot bigger outside of, you know, this space, you know what I mean? And I feel like, I feel like it's a responsibility, you know what I mean? Like seeing, you know what I mean, people that have big platforms, big profiles, you know what I mean? I didn't realize there's the responsibility that comes along with it, but I felt like it was like destined. Like I was meant to have this platform. I was meant to like be in this position. So what I would say it changed is it just gave me a new like love and respect for my motherland. And then, you know, from there now it's like, if it wasn't for me, I don't know if my son would have had that connection. So everything I do now is like, you know what I mean, it's like now my son's legacy, you know what I mean? Like, you know, my son is my legacy, and then he knows who he is, you know what I mean? I just recently watched, like without plugging, the movie On Those Lines.
Okay.
And I watched it and I was just like, wow, this is so awesome, you know, because it's like what they're saying, like know who you are, and like, you know, I mean, like your name is the meaning, and all these things. It's like, you know, I mean, like it was just empowering, you know. So yeah, I feel like that in itself was enough, and discovering and reconnecting and just like finding that inner strength. That's why I like being able to fight now is like, I pull from all those inspirations.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean? When I watch these guys in the UFC, you know, when I used to watch Stylebender and, you know, the Usman, and it's like and even Francis Ngannou, they just pull from a different source of inspiration. I'm like, that's what I have.
Okay.
And I never really tapped into that in athletics, high jump, because it wasn't a blood sport. You know what I mean? But now I'm in a blood sport, and it's
funny you saying Ngannou, because I recognise that in a way. It's like almost a spirit with him.
Yes.
And I mean, the guy, you know, let's face it, he should have maybe beat Tyson Fury in what he did and knocked him down.
He did.
It's funny. I've lost many. Well, I'm from a boxing background. My dad was a ABA boxer, and he trained us up as boxers when we were younger.
Oh wow!
And I'm very much boxing over UFC.
Yeah.
And I argue the point of you can tap someone's nose and earn a point in boxing.
Yeah.
This is not what you're seeing in this fight. Yes, you see the big knockout, well, the knockdown by Ngannou, and yes, he did smother him, but you're missing the tactical point of what boxing is. But then you go back and you think, he did look pretty good. But you see from that source, don't you? There's almost like this, I don't know, warrior spirit with Ngannou. And I think I watched Joe Rogan talking about him the other day, and I was like, you know what, you're right. He's just got this energy, and you've just hit the nail on the head there. So it's like, you know, you feed from the spirits of ancestry, almost.
Man, 100%.
Yeah.
And it's like, for those that don't have that experience to walk that life or walk that walk, it's only a feeling that you can only imagine. You know, because like you know, it's like it's lonely in that ring. It's lonely in the training camp. It's like I didn't realize, you know what I mean, like how intense training really was. Like I told you before, I didn't really feel like I tapped into that in high jump. You know what I mean? I just felt like I was always being like, just a bit. But in the boxing, it was like, no, like, you know what I mean? It's deep waters. You know what I mean? Like my coach would tell me, it's like, you know, I'm not pulling you out. I was gassing out in the beginning. I was gassing out every session. He's like, I ain't pulling you out. I ain't pulling you out. And I was like, you know what I mean? I just kept kicking it down. And eventually it was like, now when you watch me fight, it's just like aggressive. Like one of my trainers like, yo, he's getting, I remember hearing when I was sparring, he's like, he's getting aggressive, isn't he? Because when I first started, I would like, if I hit like more like I jabbed my opponent or caught him with a cross, I would apologize. I was like, oh, sorry. I'll sometimes surprise myself.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's the whole discovery. It was like, you know what I mean? Like, I had to find, you know, I hate saying it. Some people don't like me like saying what I say, but it's like, you know, it's like you tap into your dark side. Everyone has a dark side, man. And I feel like, you know what I mean, when I'm fighting, like I don't really like watching back my fights because I see like, you know, when I first came back from my debut, my son was like, he heard I had it on, he was playing, and then my son came and I didn't want him to see because I know I'm not thinking happy thoughts when I'm in there. So I feel like it will show in your expressions and everything. So I don't want him to see me as that person because, you know, I feel like, you know, I want to train him up to be a gentleman.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? He's going to have these attributes already within him. So he doesn't
I guess it's like musicians, they have their alter ego names and stuff like that. So I guess you're just stepping in the ring as the machine not Mike.
That's it.
You're not Daddy anymore.
That's it.
You're machine Mike.
That's it.
But you touched on something earlier where you were saying about the name.
Yeah.
What is your original Nigerian name?
Alayami.
Alayami. Yeah. And the meaning behind that is?
Wealth of God.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what part of Africa, what part of Nigeria are you from, family?
So Lagos, I'm from the Yoruba tribe.
Okay.
And you know, my mother's first generation actually.
Okay.
So fortunately I wasn't able to meet my grandmother. She passed before I was born, and you know, my mom was very young when she passed. But I have a huge like family in Nigeria, and some of them actually have moved over here to the UK. So, but yeah, it's, again, you know, I mean, just from your tribe, you're a family. But like this one Nigeria, regardless of what tribe you're from, like so every year, my son, whenever he celebrates his birthday, allow him to dress up in every tribe. Any cause, you know, because I feel like the culture is so rich and so vast and of like culture, and I don't want it to miss out because he's only celebrating his own tribe. And I feel like, you know, the more diverse we are, and the more we come together, the stronger we are. So. And I think that's one of the biggest things. And Jamaica too. He just came back from Jamaica and for Christmas. Because my missus, I was Jamaican and Grenadian, so he's getting a dose of everything. Okay. And you know, I think that's something that I didn't really like have growing up. I always knew I was Jamaican, but I didn't know too much of my Nigerian heritage because my mom didn't grow up with her mom and a father. Okay. But my father, you know, was in the pit. So there was always a big Jamaican culture and tradition, especially early in the 90s. But, you know, like the Africans weren't up then. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, now it's like, it's different. You know what I mean? We're everywhere now. So
I'm sitting here well jealous because it's like, it's all about tribes and where you're from, and all that culture and that. But I love it because it's multiculturalism, isn't it? And this is what this country's built on, I feel like, you know, me coming from, you know, I feel a real connection with Ireland, you know, because I have Irish heritage, and when I go there, it feels like home purely because of the Guinness, maybe, and all that stuff. I love it, you know, and like the people that, you know, the friendly nature of everything, and you feel like, oh, this feels like a home, you know. So I get it from that aspect. Can we go back to Big Brother, because I'm really fascinated by this stuff. So, what like, I mean, you're being watched like under the eye, constantly. I mean, even a moment of just, you know what we all do, we put our hands down our trousers as blokes and things like that, and like you take your top, you have a shower, like are you just thinking, I can't move here? Like, you know, what was the worst part of being watched under the eye?